Hello my loves, welcome back to my channel, or welcome to my channel if you are new here. Hi, hello, my name is Loey. Recently you guys have been tagging me in some of the scariest true stories ever told on TikTok. There's been so many trends this year that encourage people to share scary stories, and it literally makes me so happy. It's becoming so popular that usually I have maybe 5, 6, 7 stories to share with you in a video, and today I have 12. And when I tell you every single one of these stories is absolutely terrifying and according to the poster is entirely true, I mean it. These are some of the creepiest TikTok videos that I have seen in a long time. So today's gonna be a little bit more of a chill video. Get yourself a drink, get yourself a snack. But before we get started, today's video is actually sponsored by me because I just released new merch. That's right, LoeyLane Merch Labs round 2, baby. And we are back and better than ever with 3 new designs for merch for you guys. We have the Loey lockup merch, which is just, I can't believe this is my merch. We have thick thigh spooky vibes, not just in this amazing t-shirt design, but also in a really cute little dad hat. And last but certainly not least, we have another rendition of Live, Laugh, LoeyLane. This one's a little more pastel, but with that same cool kind of I don't know, death metal font. I don't really know what you call it. The merch is now live. I'll have a link for you guys down below. Sizes are extra small through 5XL, and I know that orders will be open at least for a couple of weeks. I'm hoping a month. But yeah, if you see this, then make sure to go check out the merch drop. I'm so excited about it. And thank you guys for all of your support. As always, I would never get to do cool things like this if it wasn't for all of you. Starting off strong with our first video, this comes from TikTok user ashleeinc. Ashley kind of started a new TikTok story trend by asking the question,
tell me a story about a time that you know that you saw something, but you don't ever tell this story because you know that no one would ever believe you. I don't think I've ever told this story before because I would sound like an insane person, but I know it happened. I want to be creeped out. I just watched the video of the girl, the Lyft driver in New Orleans, who says she picked up a vampire. I want more stories like that, but I'll tell you mine.
Don't worry about the vampire thing. We'll circle back around to that. I'm telling you, people have been telling the craziest stories on TikTok recently. But Ashley kicks off this request for creepy videos with a story of her own. And her story occurs when she's just 7 years old. See, Ashley grew up in the Chicago area, in a little suburb of Chicago, just southwest of the city. And on Fridays, her parents would go out to go bowling. I think that's really cute. They would go out on a little bowling date. She had a babysitter named Maria, who was probably about 16 or 17 at this time, and her little sister was around 2. It's a night for the girls, and Ashley's in the kitchen by herself, while Maria and her little sister are downstairs. And Ashley just happens to be looking out the window when she sees something strange.
It's dusk. The sun is pretty much set, and I see a black panther jump over the fence and come down, stand underneath the apple tree. It was so tall that its shoulders almost came up to the first set of branches. Jet black fur. And we had a house cat, so I know what the house cat size is in relation to this thing. This thing was easily 6 or 7 times the size of our cat. So I start calling for Maria, yelling at her to come up to the kitchen to see this black panther in our backyard. She was taking her time. My sister was crying and she was tending to her. I'm standing there mesmerized by this black panther, and it turns and it looks at me and it makes eye contact. And on its head, this thing was jet black, but on its head, it had a little patch of white fur just going right like this. And we just stare at each other for a good 5 seconds or so. I hear Maria stirring. She's coming into the kitchen, and as she's walking into the kitchen, the panther runs into the lake. I was like, there was a panther in our backyard. Maria's like, it was just a house cat. I'm like, no, it was a panther.
So the night goes on, and Ashley's positive of what she saw. She saw it clear as day. It was a panther going into the lake. And alarmingly, not too long after that, the doorbell rings. And this part of the story just gives me chills.
I'm in bed. I hear our doorbell. It's probably close to 11 o'clock because my parents were still out. They usually came home around 1 in the morning. So naturally I hear the doorbell ring. I get out of bed. I go to the top of the stairs and I see Maria answering the door. And I'm creeping on the stairs, and she lets this man in, and he's wearing all black. He was very pale. And I hear him tell her basically that he was a traveler who lost his way and he needed to use our phone. It was the 90s, so people didn't have cell phones easily accessible, so he just wanted to use our landline. So Maria lets him in. He's using the phone. It's very muffled. I can't hear what he's saying. I like remember the conversation, but I don't. That's where mine and this girl's stories are similar. So after he makes his phone call, he's like turning to leave. He walks past the stairs. He looks up at me because I'm still sitting at the top of it. And I see on his head, he has a little patch of white hair in the same spot that the panther had. And he looks at Maria and he goes, "Thank you for your help. It's really easy to get lost in the shadows." And he leaves. Now this man shook me. Like I could not sleep that night. So when my parents got home, I was still awake in bed. I ran downstairs. I told them all about the panther. They chalked it up to an overactive imagination. And they were like, it was just a house cat. Like you're just letting your imagination get the best of you. And I told them about the man. They were pissed. They were fuming. They fired Maria for letting a strange man into our house, as they should have. But yeah, I don't know. I've looked into it. There have been tons of Black Panther sightings all over Illinois, close to Chicago. And yet the Department of Natural Resources maintains that there are no Black Panthers in Illinois.
That man basically looked like this panther, had that same like patch of white. And a lot of the comments were saying like he was making sure you saw him, making sure you knew it was him. Now, after this video totally blew up, there were so many people commenting, and I was very pleased to see that this comment section was not full of naysayers, not full of people like, you were a kid, you don't know what you saw. It was a lot of people like, this sounds real. It sounds like you knew exactly what you saw. The fact that he came to your door, like that is just so creepy. This is very clearly something that wanted you to know what it was. Or not what it was, but like wanted her to see it. A lot of people were saying that this was a shapeshifter. And Ashley receives an email from someone who knows exactly the area she's talking about because they had a similar experience.
I got this email this morning and it gave me chills. Okay, so this person emails me and they said, "Hey, I just heard about your Black Panther sighting in the Chicago suburbs back in the 90s and I couldn't believe it. Did this happen to be in Lansing at the lake near Potts Park?" It was. I actually had a similar experience around the same time in the same area. I was a teenager at the time and living with my parents on the lake. I don't have TikTok. My ex-girlfriend from the time reached out on Facebook Messenger to send me your video. We haven't talked in years. I had to reach out to you to tell my story because my story is crazy similar. I was sitting in the yard by the lake with my then girlfriend when we noticed a shadowy figure moving along the shoreline. It wasn't quite nighttime, but dark enough where we couldn't see far into the distance. She pointed it out first, and we initially thought it was a man, but the figure seemed to morph and shift, its form changing between a large, dark beast or crouching man. It's hard to explain what it was, as there aren't really words that would do it justice what we saw. Before I could really comprehend what I was seeing, the man cat slipped silently into the water, vanishing without a trace. The air around me felt charged with an eerie energy, and I remember having a goosebumps and the hair on my arms was standing on end. It was one of the most unsettling and mysterious things I've ever witnessed. I haven't really told anyone about it because the entire time I just chalked it up to my mind playing tricks on me, and my then girlfriend and I convinced each other it was just a weird man going swimming. I don't really know. After that encounter, I sought out some answers and spoke to our old neighbor who lived near the lake. He was always kind of into weird stuff and spent a lot of time sitting in his yard and watching the water. He wasn't a professional, but he was a local historian of sorts and knew much about the area's lore. He told me about the legend of the shapeshifter that had roamed these lands for centuries. According to him, this being could take on various forms, often appearing as a panther, a wolf, or a man who could disappear into the water. The old man said the shapeshifter was believed to be a guardian of the area, sometimes a protector, and other times he'd show up when there was change coming. He said the last time he remembers somebody telling him about him showing up was when they built a new development of houses on the lake in the late 1980s. He advised me to always be cautious and trust my instincts when encountering such beings. He shared an anecdote about how the area was originally settled. Long before modern civilization took root, indigenous tribes lived here, coexisting with the land and its mystical inhabitants. They respected the shapeshifter, viewing it as a spirit of the earth. When the first European settlers arrived, they ignored the warnings and built too close to the sacred spots. Strange phenomena like animals and crops disappearing and eerie sightings bothered them until they learned to respect the land's ancient mysteries. The old man believed that the shapeshifter still watched over these lands, reminding those who live there to honor the past and tread carefully. And he says, "I'm not sure what to make of it all, but I can't help but feel that our stories are connected in some way. Maybe there's a deeper mystery at play here. Stay safe out there and let me know if you hear anything else about the area from others. Best, Brandon." So I'm like, there's no way. So I start Googling. The first thing I type in is Native American tribes in Lansing, Illinois, and this comes up. Through the center of Lansing, running east-west, is a 25-foot-high elongated ridge of sand and gravel deposits that was once a great prominent Indian trail that is now known as Ridge Road. Here's a map of the area, okay? So this was the lake. This is Ridge Road. So this is how far we are. So then I type in what native tribes lived in the area, and this tribe comes up. Oh my God. They did ceremonies to appease the underworld panther and maintain balance. There's a myth of the underworld panther. In my story, I talked about how the panther disappeared in the water, and look at this journal entry. You can pause to read this if you'd like. But yeah, the underwater panther is apparently a whole thing, so.
I find it very interesting also that underwater panthers are a thing. I mean, not like a thing in the animal kingdom, but they are a thing in mythology. So did she see some kind of mythical creature that shapeshifted into a human to come into her home just to taunt her? Maybe, but I'm gonna be real honest with you. I don't know what she saw. Should we go ahead and talk about vampires also while we're here? People have been making videos about vampire experiences, specifically in New Orleans. And I think one of the most fascinating, terrifying viral ones comes from TikTok user Essence Creations 27, who talks about one New Year's Eve that she was driving for Lyft, where she swears she picked up a group of vampires.
This New Year's Eve, I was driving Lyft and I picked up an order, and it ended up being at like a place that used to be a church, but it wasn't a church anymore, obviously, if you saw the festivities that was going on. There were like people with cloaks and like dark hair and heavy eyeliner, and there was like a red glow from the building coming out. 4 guys got into my car. As soon as they got into the car, I felt a chill. And yes, it was winter, but it was a different kind of chill. I turned around and looked at them, and I immediately knew they were vampires. And it wasn't even just like a thought. It was more so a knowing. Before they got into the car, I was thinking like maybe they were devil worshippers, because I had seen like a goat head and like the typical symbols that you see with associated with that. But I was like, no, these are vampires.
So in terms of how they looked, they were apparently very, very pale. Pale in a way where the poster says there was no like warmth to their skin. It didn't look like a normal kind of pale. And there were 2 brunettes, 2 blondes, and they had incredibly light, piercing blue eyes. And she's not even sure why, but at this point she starts to panic.
Immediately, I start to panic. My heart is racing. I'm feeling like, is it too late to reject the call? Like, can I even ask them to leave the vehicle? And then I started thinking, okay, if I am panicking and my blood pressure is rising, then I'm like pushing more blood through my veins, which may mean that I may seem more appetizing to them. This is all stuff that's going through my mind. The man behind me, the blind, who was like in the middle, touches my shoulder, and immediately it's like somebody poured warm honey over me. Like, that is the calm just spreading down my body. It was like immediately I felt relaxed. Almost like I was in a trance, kind of there, but like watching myself. I can't even really describe it. And I knew at that moment that I wasn't necessarily in danger.
That is so eerie. Like, suddenly she feels this overwhelming peace and calm come over her. But then one of them says that they need to ask her a question.
So he's like, okay, well, we have 2 separate cars. How would you group us together? Who should ride with who? So I'm like, I look back at them, and they're smiling and they're kind of giggling. Now, their teeth don't look like regular teeth, but they don't look like the typical vampire teeth either. But they definitely did not look like human teeth. Their canines were a little bit more pronounced, but not in a dramatic, fake way. I can't even freaking describe it. And actually, if I had to describe them, to sketch them out right now, I couldn't even, because it's like they're a memory, but not like a typical memory, like a memory behind a memory. I knew it. I'm like, you're vampires. Yes. I heard the answer in my head. No, I'm looking at them through because I'm like, if they lunge for the jugular, I'm gonna crash us all. But I grouped the opposite hair colors together. And the guy said, well, why did you do that? I said, I don't know, it just felt right. He said, excellent choice. He took out his phone and he's like, I'm gonna start my car now. And I'm like, you could start your car from my car? And he's like, yeah, but we like you. You'll get home safe. Good. Like, you'll get home safe tonight. They got out and they gave me my biggest tip of the night. You would think that would have been my last ride for the night, but no, I kept going. I made it home and I didn't tell other person about this story because, like, are you supposed to share vampire stories? I don't know. However, I just did. So just know that there are other beings in this world besides us.
Now, so many people would obviously say that she just had a car full of goths. She just had a car full of alternative people going out on New Year's Eve. But there's so many strange elements to her story, like the guy touching her and suddenly she's just totally at peace. Also, her overwhelming panic out of nowhere. I'm sorry, but if you're driving like for a rideshare app on a regular basis, I feel like you probably don't get super spooked by like, I don't know, just a normal set of passengers getting into your car. I truly think something a little funky was going on there. And this story was going so viral. People saying like, have you heard about the Lyft driver in Chicago who encountered vampires? And then immediately sharing their own vampire story. It's been really, really, really fascinating being on vampire TikTok. But anyways, I had to share this story. It's terrifying. I'm really curious what you guys think about that one. On the heels of this, TikTok user hnnuhrose came out and made a little video of her own saying she's been on vampire TikTok and she has a scary story that she wants to tell. So Hannah works as an EMT and she gets a call one night that she would never forget.
Me and my 50-year-old Christian woman partner, who she does not believe in this stuff at all. We were taking this patient that was on a 5150 that was being extended. And so we took her to like a longer stay home, which I've never seen like a home like this in LA before. But it was basically like this wood house in Atwater Village. And the moment you pull up, it just looks like this wooden Victorian situation, like something you would see in a movie. Like if you've ever seen that movie Monster House as a kid, like that's what it looked like. And the vibes were just like not right as soon as you got out. But I was like, you know, whatever.
This patient isn't doing well to begin with. But when they get to this longer stay home that she described, the patient starts freaking out.
We get out and she's like, please don't leave me here. Like I can see things and like she's like sobbing to me. She's like, please don't leave me here. But like, I have to, you know, like as much as I don't want to leave you here because it is f***ing haunted, you can tell. What am I supposed to do? I'd be kidnapping you. Anyways, we get inside. We can barely get her freaking gurney in there. And we're taking her up to the room. The whole time she's just sobbing, this poor girl. And my partner just kind of attributed that to that obviously she didn't want to be in another mental health institution.
After the patient was taken to the room, Hannah and her partner start getting ready to leave. They fold up their gurney and they get into the elevator. But it's when they're in the elevator that something really, really strange happens.
We close the elevator and it says 3, 2, 1, and those are the only buttons. So we click 1 and we stop at 1, the doors don't open, and then it just keeps going down. And I'm like, what the f? And the doors open, pitch black. It's pitch black. This is obviously the basement, right? It's pitch black and you can't really hear anything except like this growling, and not like that, but like growling of like a machine or something. And it's just like really eerie, and the vibes, the energy was just sucked out. Like it's like negative energy. I'm pushing the button and she's looking at me like, Hannah, please push the button. And I was like, I'm trying, like, and I'm pushing 1, I'm pushing 2, I'm pushing everything just so we could go up. And I'm not even shitting you when I say this. I say this with my whole heart. This is the scariest thing that's ever happened to me. We hear footsteps, slow footsteps, like a heeled man's shoe walking from the back of the room to the front of the room, but it's pitch black. You can't see anything. Slow footsteps. And she looks at me and I was like, and we're both pushing buttons. We're pushing the emergency button. We're trying to manually close it because something was wrong. They are about to like come in the elevator light. The footsteps are about to come in the elevator light. And finally it closes.
They get back up. They're terrified. They tell the security guard, we just went down to the basement. Something ain't right with your elevator. And they say, there is no basement.
And we look at the security guard and I'm like, there is something wrong with your elevator. It took us to the basement. He said, "We don't have a basement here, ma'am." We get back in the ambulance. We just had to sit there. We couldn't even clean the gurney for a minute. Like, we had to sit there. And she said, "What the f?" This poor woman, she doesn't cuss. She's a good Christian woman. And we just never talked about it.
It's so clear that this story genuinely freaks this poster out. And honestly, you guys, some of the scariest paranormal stories I've ever heard come from EMT workers. Whatever that thing was sounds sinister. And a lot of people were saying it's kind of even scarier that the woman that they took to that institution, obviously she was not doing very well, but the fact that she said something's not right here, and then immediately those two experienced that, and the woman had to stay there, really, really scary. And I hope that patient is okay today. This video comes from Isabel Riley, and it is a story unlike anything I've ever heard, with a photo of a real ghost to match. Also, Isabel tagged me in her TikTok. Thank you so much. I love hearing you guys' stories, so if you ever tell a scary story on TikTok, tag me. So, Isabel was at a company get-together with like the CEOs and the owners of the company that she works for, when suddenly one of them looks at them and says, "Do you guys want to see an insane ghost picture?"
He begins to tell us that he was in New Orleans at a restaurant called Antoine's. New Orleans, first of all, super haunted city. If you know, you know. And Antoine's is one of the oldest restaurants in the city, one of the oldest restaurants, I believe, in America. It has a lot of history. It used to be a jail. It is a really well-established place, has been around forever. So he's dining at this restaurant and he's offered a tour of the wine cellar. The wine cellar is huge, has thousands of bottles of wine, probably worth millions of dollars. So he's taking a tour of the wine cellar, he's taking pictures. There's this guy in the wine cellar on a laptop who is apparently at auction buying more rare wine for the collection. My CEO takes pictures of this guy on his laptop, doesn't think anything of it, he doesn't see anything, leaves the restaurant, calls it a day. The next morning, he's looking through the photos and notices something in one of the pictures that he took in the wine cellar. I'm going to upload the first picture that he took. There's nothing that immediately jumped out in this picture, but I want to give a baseline. So this is the first picture that he showed me from the wine cellar. You can see this guy who is on his laptop at auction doing whatever. And here is the next picture that he took. So we all see that. That is a full body apparition. It looks like a woman in this like black Victorian dress. And when I was showed this, I genuinely had full body chills. That is insane. So he showed that to me. And keep in mind, he is showing me pictures from his camera roll. Like in sequence, time stamped. Those two pictures were like a minute apart. If that, like probably seconds apart. I see all the other pictures from his trip. This is not edited. He's also not the kind of person who would do anything like that. Like he hasn't posted this anywhere. It's just a story that he was telling us. I've never seen anything like this.
That is one of the scariest images I've ever seen, and I completely believe that is a real ghost. The photo without the ghost in it looks exactly like the one with her in it. Like nobody is moving. This woman doesn't even look like she's from modern times. Like the way that she's dressed, she just doesn't look like she belongs in the year 2024 or whatever year this was taken. Like if I saw this and I didn't have the context of that story, I would assume it was maybe somebody who worked in costume at this restaurant. And it's such a clear image, of course, like I'm sure so many people will say that it's a hoax, but I really believe this story. I'm telling you, I've only been to New Orleans once, and it's some of the strangest energy I've ever experienced in my life. There is something creepy about that city that I've only ever seen rivaled by Savannah, Georgia. Literally one of those haunted cities in the US. So this story really freaked me out. Isabel, thanks again for tagging me. What the heck do you guys think this was? A woman named kristyrobinett has recounted her story with what she believes is a vampire. Many decades ago, Kristy lost her job. And she says it was around 30 years ago because she had just had her baby girl. And she got a job interview at a local business. She goes in to this interview and immediately she just felt there was something off about the owner of this business that she was interviewing with.
I went to this interview and I immediately felt something odd with the owner of this business. There was something so mesmerizing about him. He wasn't good looking, but he was good looking. It's hard to explain. Like, there was just something strange about him, and he just felt almost hypnotic. And he said, I'm interviewing for a couple more people, and I'll give you a call in a couple days and let you know if you get the job. Okay. I did get the job. A couple days later, he gave me a phone call and he said, I am offering you this job at this pay. And it wasn't bad. The hours weren't bad. The pay wasn't bad. And I said, let me think about it. I had another offer on the table. And he said, please let me know by tomorrow. And I'm like, understood.
So at this point, she calls her mother, who she says was very, very intuitive. And all she tells her mom is, hey, I got an offer for this job. And immediately her mother says, do not take that job.
I told her, and I'm like, I got this job offer, and I didn't even tell her a lot of like the creepiness that this guy kind of gave me. And she's like, Kristy, I have a really bad feeling. Do not accept this job. Do not accept the job. I'm telling you right now, something's not right. Do not accept this job. Now, this is a business that was in the person's family for a long time. It wasn't like a starter company. This person was kind of known in the community. My mom didn't know him, but so it was a substantial, real job. And I'm like, Mom, I don't understand. I need a job. She's like, you're going to get a job offer from that other place that you interviewed for. Just stick it out. Tell this guy no and accept the other job once it comes. And I'm like, this job was actually, it was pretty good.
She decides she's going to listen to her mom. Something doesn't feel right here. Her mom has basically confirmed it for her without even knowing like some of the creepy aspects of this interview, just some of the things that Kristy was feeling. So Kristy calls up the guy the next day and she's like, hey, really appreciate the job offer. I can't take the job. And this man does not respond with, okay, best of luck. A normal thing an employer might say when turned down. He says, I will double your pay.
Really honored, but I'm declining the job offer, and thank you very much for your time. And he's like, I will double your pay. I will double your pay. Now, it already was good pay, but double the pay was a lot of pay. And I'm like, again, something felt really off. And I'm like, sir, I'm so sorry. I'm going to decline. And he's like, I'm going to check with you in a couple days. And there was just something very ominous about the way that he said that. And that night, I ended up having a dream with him in it. And it was very vampire-ish, is the only way that I can describe it. And the business that he was in also spoke volumes for that. So a couple days later, he called me. And I said, again, sir, I've accepted another job. And I did not tell him with whom. And he's like, I will triple your salary. And I'm like, I'm sorry, sir. And he said, I can tell that you are very psychic. And I can tell that you know who I am and what I am. And I think it would behoove you to take this job. So I told him again, no, thank you. And he said, okay.
She ends up taking a job at a cabinet store. She's working as an office manager. And during this time, she keeps seeing the vampire man in her dreams until suddenly he shows up at her new place of work.
Well, guess who showed up at the kitchen store the second day that I started? Yeah, this guy. And it's like he knew that I was going to be there. He's like, "Hi, Christy." And I'm like, "Excuse me, what are you stalking me? Like, what are you doing here?" And he's like, "I'm ordering a new kitchen for the business." Like, it was nothing. And he continued to come in my dreams. About a year later, I ended up taking a job at a fireplace store as an office manager. A couple days into that, this gentleman walks in and says, "I need a new fireplace for my business." Now, I'm not going to say everything about the business and everything about him, but you might be able to figure it out with a clue. And that is, he lived above the business. That's all I'm going to say. So he's like, "Yep, I need a fireplace." And I'm like, "Sir, I don't understand why you're here." And he continued every time. He's like, "Would you like to work with me?" I'm like, "Nope, I'm good. I'm good."
Christy worked at this fireplace store for a couple of years, and the vampire man would call sometimes to have his fireplace service. Christy told her boss about it. Her boss is like, "I'm going to send you out there with the tech," as like a joke. And she's like, "No." She said there's just something strange about this person, something strange about this man. He's like immortal. That's just the weird feeling she gets from him. She says even if you look at the family lineage, it's like he's been here before. A couple of years pass. She quits the fireplace store. She goes to work for a school district. And guess who shows up?
I ended up quitting a couple of years after that, and I worked for a school district. And guess who showed up at the admin office? Him. And in the meantime, he's still coming in my dreams. And every once in a while, he's still calling me and asking me if I want a job. And no, my mom had passed away. I'd gotten a divorce. I mean, we are eons into this. And I ended up running into him at a store, and he, like, do you remember everybody you interviewed like one time? Because he either has a really crazy memory, or it wasn't like a stalker. He just wasn't. That wasn't the case. It's just, again, it was very vampiristic. Is that a word? And so I ran into him, and he's like, "Hi, Christy." And again, he's like, "How are you doing?" And it was just very kind of Norman Bates creepy.
Perhaps unsurprisingly, Christy now works as a psychic medium. She seems like somebody who's very sensitive to spirit. Her mother was very intuitive, and she just fell into this line of work. And it was when she was working on a case with who she claims is a competitor of his that she got a bit of closure, maybe information, I don't know, nightmare fuel with this story.
In the job that I'm in now, I'm a professional psychic medium. I ended up having to go to a competitor of his to work on a case. And we ended up talking about this gentleman and his business. And I didn't say anything, but the owner of this establishment went, "Just, Christy, make sure you stay away from, because he's a vampire." And I didn't laugh, and she didn't laugh. And she knew I knew, and I knew she knew too. So vampires do exist, and they don't necessarily wear capes. Sometimes they wear business suits, and sometimes they invade your dreams. And I feel as if there's a possibility that my life at that time was a little bit crazy, and it was because of the psychic sort of like vampire energy that he was sending to me, because he was mad that I did not accept a job with him. I would love to tell you more, but I don't want to open up that can of bats.
The fact that this man just kept showing up, no matter where she ended up working, like he knew where she was. This is the days, also, she said, before AOL Instant Messenger even. Like, you couldn't keep up with people like that. but it was like he always knew just where to go to find her. So creepy stalker or vampire, I genuinely don't know which is scarier. Sweetheart Alabama is a poster who worked on Bourbon Street in New Orleans for 12 years, and she wanted to weigh in on the supposed New Orleans vampire stories.
Well, I see vampires in New Orleans is trending, and as someone who lived in New Orleans for 12 years and worked on Bourbon Street almost every night of those 12 years, and was around a lot of darkness there, I can tell you I met a lot of something. Vampires in particular, anybody who told me they were a vampire, no. Did I meet the devil? Well, if you were around the early days of the House of Blues back in the day, you might know what I'm talking about. And I also met Michael the Archangel. Now, that's a story I've done before. If you want to hear it, let me know. But would it shock me if there was major supernatural and strange things going on? Have you ever been to New Orleans? No, not shocking. But I guess I never got the chance to meet someone who claimed to be a vampire. There's a lot of vampire fans there because of Anne Rice, and a lot of people who dress like vampires to look cool and to feel like they were, mysterious. But let me tell you something. The real people walking around New Orleans, they're a hell of a lot scarier.
Now, the TikTok comment said, "Girly pop, that's all well and good. Who did you say you met? Archangel Michael? Can we rewind it to that?" And my girl, Sweetheart Alabama, did not just pull up with more information. She pulled up with literal receipts.
This was 1995 at the Maiden Voyage on Bourbon Street. In fact, I can tell you exactly when it was from his drink receipt. It was Saturday, November the 11th, 1995 at 8:27 p.m. when he walked in and got a drink. And that drink was a Heineken. Y'all, I remember so many things, so many details about meeting this person 29 years ago, a stranger. I've kept these for 29 years. He made such an impact on me. This is so crazy. I can't believe I am telling y'all this story. Okay, when he came in, I noticed him immediately. He sat down kind of in the middle of the room. The Maiden Voyage is a strip club, by the way, if you haven't caught on to that yet. I went over, said hello, introduced myself, asked if he wanted to dance. But no, he was so polite, and he just said no thank you. And I never did this. I just asked, well, can I sit down for a minute and, maybe hang out? He was already drinking his Heineken at the time. And we got into a conversation. And when I tell you, this man's eyes were mesmerizing, okay? At some point in the first few minutes, he says to me, "I am the angel Michael."
So she's talking to this guy, and he says, "I gotta tell you something. I'm the Archangel Michael." And she's like, okay, dude, like we got a weird one here. But she says that his actions, like the way that he presented himself, was not aligned with someone who has mental issues, although that's not really a look. She remembers the way he looks so distinctly, and it's not only her memory that she has to go off of here, because she has a piece of paper that he was writing and drawing on.
And we started talking about God and Jesus, and he wrote some notes, and he just grabbed the receipt to write some notes, okay? I'm going to share those with you, but he was wearing white pants and a white shirt, not unusual necessarily in New Orleans, but even though it's November, not necessarily unusual. He had a boat captain's hat. Okay, but hang on a second. Instead of the wheel in the middle of the boat captain's hat, he had a sand dollar in the middle. He had a beautiful face, even though I wouldn't call him like attractive. He wasn't hot, like a hot guy. It wasn't that. He had a beautiful face, and he had curly blonde hair, like ringlet curly, and it was probably like that long.
At At this point, this woman is still skeptical. She's still not quite sure what's going on here, but it kind of seems like she's stuck somewhere between disbelief and genuine skepticism.
He was showing the star here. Don't get freaked out. He was just writing a star because that was his symbol why he was drinking a Heineken. And he wrote also manifestation, and he wrote man/infestation. And then he wrote God, occult, and Satan. And we had a conversation about that. I don't remember all the details of that one. And then on the other side, he wrote top of change, in God we trust, like in the, I guess we were talking about money. And then he wrote about how to do Bible, ask a question of the Bible. I'm going to show you these, okay? Write down a question, say a prayer in faith for personal revelation through prayer, through the Bible, put your hand on the page and interpret the answer. Okay, I'll show you all of these. We had a pleasant conversation. I was just like, is this guy starting a cult? Like, I am so mesmerized by this guy. I get called onto stage, had to go back to work and do stuff. I look over at him occasionally and there are girls everywhere sitting all around him, just sitting talking. Like everybody, all the girls are just drawn to this guy. And I watched from afar and just thought, what am I doing? What am I doing? There's a crazy fool in here saying he's the Archangel Michael. And here I am just staring at him, and all the other girls are intrigued with him. Like, what is going on?
But she ends up asking him, why are you here? And I found this part of her story really eerie.
It was a skeptical question, and I asked him, why are you here? And I cannot tell you the answer. I just can't tell you. Like, I don't know why I can't tell you, but I can't tell you. But he told me, and I can't say it. Towards the end of the night, I guess, I see that he's about to leave. And just something in me, I had to go tell him bye. I couldn't let him leave without saying something. And so I ran over there and I said, Michael, if it's really you, put in a good word for me. And he smiled and said, you're in. And I don't know why. After 29 years, I can remember the look on his face and the feeling that I felt when he said that to me.
Weird, right? Like just that feeling she had, how it stuck with her all of these years later. Weird. Then she shows a close-up of the receipt.
So here is the note he wrote with man infestation, occult, God, Satan. And this is the actual receipt that says top change in God we trust. And there's the address, 225 Bourbon Street, Maiden Voyage Limited. He had a beer. It was 6:25. And there's the date and the time. Also, no cameras or recording devices. This is the duplicate of the same receipt. And then this was what he wrote down to find the answer to a question in the Bible. So there you go. That's the story.
Look, was that the Archangel Michael? I don't know. Most logic would point to no, of course. And a lot of people were saying in the comments, why would Archangel Michael be at a bar, essentially? But I do think there's just some things in New Orleans you can't explain. If you've never been, it probably just sounds like a bunch of bullshit, but there's just something about it that feels out of this world. For me, the entire time that I was in New Orleans, I didn't feel like I was in the United States. I didn't feel like I was on planet Earth. So was it the Archangel Michael? I don't know, but she met someone strange. The next video is kind of a quick one, but it comes from itsjaydenhills, who says that her mom talks to dead people. What a fun way to start a video.
My mom talks to dead people. And my dad died like 6 months ago, and we just got back from dinner, and it was really significant. So, quick background context, and you have to see this video. He wants his ashes scattered in some of his favorite places. One of those places is Disney World, for better or for worse. So we know we have to go back to Disney World. The people we were at dinner with have come to Disney with us when I was younger. Now they have kids of their own, and we just talked about doing this whole group trip to Disney World with their kids to scatter his ashes. Emotional, we're all crying. We get home, Mom goes to the bathroom. She's sitting on the toilet, and she's like, someone's here, come here. So I walk into the bathroom, and this happens.
Dad, if this is you, can you flash one time, one big time? One big time. Dad, if this is you. Did you see it?
Not a big time now.
Come on, flash bigger. Flash it stronger. There we go. Thank you.
Oh my gosh.
Thank you. If you heard the Disney conversation, okay? If you heard the Disney conversation, which I know you did, flash twice. Flash it twice, please.
Oh,
that was a good try. That was good.
Body chills.
I just think that's so beautiful. I really think that our loved ones are completely capable of giving us signs and talking to us and interacting with us on the day-to-day, and I'm sure that her mother was just so happy to have that confirmation from her dad. It was just really sweet, and yeah, that was a little palate cleanser of a story. Something still sad, don't get me wrong, you know, her dad being gone is sad, but also something really sweet. The next TikTok comes from Brennna, and this is a stitch in response to TikTok user Audacity. And you may have seen at least part of this video before in a Scream stream. I kind of want to take back some of the things that I've said about it now that I've watched the video in its entirety with like the full context. Because when I watched the video, there is like a video of evidence in this story time. When I watched it initially, I was like, there's too much happening in this. This is very clearly a hoax. Like, I was very harsh on it. But hearing this story, I don't think I'm so sure anymore.
Okay, I have video footage of this. I will share it at the end. Nobody thinks it's real. Like, it seems like it's doctored footage, but it's not, I swear on my life. Basically, both my sister and my old roommate used to work at this like music school daycare center for kids in the Upper East Side. The music classes would happen upstairs, but downstairs in the basement there was this like daycare situation, and you had to work down there. And they both hated being down there. And I'd been down there a few times too. It is really scary. Like, you know when you just get a feeling about a place? Like, that is the basement. It was horrible. They would both like hear voices when their co-teacher hadn't showed up yet, or like the cleaner would go downstairs and all the toys would be arranged in like a circle, and she'd be like in tears being like, are you guys playing a prank on me? I seriously, like, I don't feel safe here. The kids would all say really creepy shit. Like, they'd say like there's a really like mean guy in like the tunnel, like a little play tunnel thing, or like there's like someone mean over in like the dark corner of the basement. So when COVID hit, obviously no one was going into the daycare. It essentially shut down. But the owners installed cameras just in case like anything happened while they weren't there. And it picked up the most insane shit ever. It's a minute and a half long, so here you go.
is some of the craziest paranormal footage I've ever seen. And again, I was really harsh on this video the first time I saw it because it just seems unbelievable. Let's call it what it is. It's a lot happening in this video. I don't know what it is. Listening to this story in its entirety, I don't know, just hearing Brennna talk a bit about the situation. Like she said she had her roommate and her sister both work there, and their fear around the basement, the kids like seeing a creepy man, I think they said, at the end of the tunnel, like the little play tunnel. I don't know. I think this footage is absolutely terrifying, and I guess it wouldn't be the craziest thing in the world to fake. I really don't think that much has changed for me in terms of like the footage itself. It's still crazy. If it is doctored, I don't think Brennna knows that in any way. I just don't think she's lying. I also just like, I don't know. The footage freaks me out. I kind of think it's real. Eating my own words, because I'm telling you, the first time I saw that, I was like, there's no way. And it's still so unbelievable, but now I kind of think it might be real. I don't know. At the very least, I think Brenna's story is true, and this is a video for stories, so I'm just gonna let you guys tell me what you think about it. On to our final video of the night. Strawberry Bagel Bites captioned this video, "Why I Believe in Ghosts," as someone who works in hospice. I follow a TikToker named Nurse Hadley who talks a lot about her experiences with like the paranormal, the other side, the afterlife, and she is a hospice nurse. She wrote a book about it that I actually just started reading. It's amazing. So when I saw this video from another hospice worker saying like, yeah, I believe ghosts are real, spirits are real, I had to listen.
I work in hospice. Spirits are real. I'm sorry. Ghosts are real. I'm gonna be the first one to tell you. One time I'm in this room on my own and I'm cleaning this body to be bagged. I'm the only one in there, right? I'm by the body. The bathroom call light starts going off, like ringing. And I'm like, so I walk in there, press the little button, turn it off. Walk back out there, starts going off again. I walk back in there, turn it off. I walk back out to the body and the call light that's like next to her is buzzing, like it's making a buzzing noise. They don't do that. They don't make that noise. I was like, bitch, the time this girl that I work with is holding this patient's hand as they passed. And then when they like close their eyes, passed, took their last breath, she looks up at the light starts flickering. Like immediately after the patient passed, light starts flickering. It don't do that. It don't work like that. Something was there. Not hospice, but I had this confused patient once, and he did not remember what he said 3 seconds ago. Like he was not talking about the same stuff all day. He was super confused, right? 3 separate times throughout the day, he looks at me and asks me about the lady with long black hair standing behind me and not smiling. What the fuck do you mean? The lady with long black hair standing behind me and not smiling? Spirits are real. I'm sorry.
I'm inclined to agree with her. Spirits are real. And that was 12 real scary stories from the scary side of TikTok. I really hope you all enjoyed. If you did, go ahead and give me a thumbs up and please subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. I want to say an extra special thank you to my subscribers who are members of the channel. If you want to join the channel memberships and get extra members exclusive perks like members only videos, polls to help me decide on future video topics, members only updates, so much more, you can click the little join button somewhere around the screen. We would love to have you. An extra special thank you to my VIP loves for their continued and generous support of the channel. I love and appreciate you all very, very much. I love you all very much, and I will see you in my next video.